She said to me after that, you'll have to stay on a mainly meat eating diet for like maybe the rest of your life and just avoid carbohydrates. And I just remember coming home and my heart just sunk because I was already in such a bad condition.
For the record, I'm done trying to make y'all comfortable. For the record, you ain't trying to grow, then it's done for you.
For the past few months, have been working with Simon on my small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. This is something that I had brought up to him in the last few months, but I had actually been experiencing symptoms for the past 2 years, I'd say. But now that I think about it, I believe I've been dealing with it for longer than I thought I did. But it's just, I kind of kept dismissing what I had because I thought it was normal, like the levels of bloating I had. And I just had really low levels of energy. My digestion was basically, it went to the point where even the most healthiest foods, my body was no longer able to tolerate. And by the end of the day, it just felt like my stomach would be so swollen, and it was just like there was like a hard rock inside me that just wouldn't go away, and it was the most uncomfortable thing ever.
Okay, so you've touched upon bloating there. Any other sort of significant symptoms? Obviously bloating, energy problems, but any kind of cramping, any skin issues, anything aside from those, or were they your predominant issues?
No, I also dealt with really bad acne at the time, and I was just trying to look through like loads of diets to see what could help. And I'd had really bad like constipation, like where I'd just be sitting on the toilet and I'd just be like, it would be really hard for me. And it was just so horrible because I felt like even though I was doing exercise, I was eating so healthy, my immune system just felt so messed up, and it just, nothing made sense to me at the time. I was just like, I don't know what this could be, because I thought you only get an irritable bowel from eating unhealthy foods. So
okay. So you said there the problems had been going on for a couple of years, potentially even longer than that. What was the cumulative effect of all of this on your quality of life?
my quality of life, it was like, it just, my health just decreased and just went down and down like over the years, to the point where even when I'd go university, it was just so horrible. I wouldn't be able to concentrate. I wouldn't even be able to, I don't know how I like got through my final year of university with the amount of stress I was under with both uni work and both my health, because I just didn't want to get out of bed. I'd have to drag myself to walk out anywhere. And then on top of that, my acne issues weren't making it any easier because my self-esteem just hit rock bottom. So I believe like stress probably just made everything 10 times worse. And it was just like everything was just in my stomach in a knot throughout the whole day, day in and out. And I just didn't know what it felt like to be normal at that point.
Okay. And obviously we've touched upon diet, and we've discussed that previously on a number of different calls, that your diet was fairly clean. You weren't eating massive amounts of processed refined foods. Your sleep patterns were, pretty good. You were exercising, so you were doing all of the right things. What was your doctor's take on all of that? Because obviously you've got all of these symptoms. You go to your doctor and you say, look, this is what's happening. What did they say to you in that situation?
So before I actually went to the doctors to get like this SIBO like sort of diagnosis, I had gone to a nutritionist down in central London, and then I obviously did the hydrogen and methane breath test, and my numbers came out pretty high from what I remember. I think they almost actually went into the hundreds, and I was hydrogen dominant. And so the nutritionist there didn't really give me much of an insight. She just said that it's something where if you eat too many carbohydrates, obviously like the bacteria feeds on that. And I still remember to this day, because my dad was sitting with me in the room, and she was like, the sort of bacterial overgrowth you have, like even if you are able to eradicate it, she said to me after that, you'll have to stay on a mainly meat eating diet for like maybe the rest of your life and just avoid carbohydrates. And I just remember coming home and my heart just sunk because I was already in such a bad condition. And on top of that, the foods that would somewhat make me feel better, I was being told to avoid maybe like forever. And I was just like, I didn't think there was any escape out of that. So I followed her diet, which was mainly avoiding most of the vegetables and just eating like a ketogenic diet, I believe it was. And with that, my cholesterol levels went up like through the roof. And I'm bearing in mind, I'm only 45 kg myself. I've never had cholesterol problems other than the fact that I was eating meat, probably like, or a protein-based foods like 3 times a day just to be able to deal with the symptoms. And I phoned my doctor and I said, like, I've had enough of this because I'm doing this diet, but I don't seem to be getting anywhere. And the doctor just said to me, if you've got irritable bowel syndrome, you need fiber, so eat broccoli, eat all the greens. And I was just on the phone to myself thinking, if I could tolerate broccoli, I would eat it in an instant, but I can't even do that. So they just kind of dismissed it as normal IBS, and they were offering me an antibiotic, but I didn't take it because it just seemed like an antibiotic that would just kind of cover up the symptoms, but then it would return straight after that.
Okay, so when we initially spoke, that you said that you've tried a couple of things previously after sort of receiving that SIBO diagnosis.
Yeah.
One of the things I think you mentioned before was that you tried, obviously, and you've just mentioned it again there, a low FODMAP diet. And I think it's come after watching one of Dr. Berg's videos.
Oh my,
like
yes.
Can you just explain what happened? Because I know sort of over the last couple of years on the internet, there's been kind of a push towards ketogenic diets, carnivorous diets that, you know, they're the savior for digestive health and things like that. So can you just run people through when you went on that low FODMAP ketogenic type of diet, what happened in terms of energy levels and some of these other symptoms?
Oh my God. It was like I probably started it for around 3 days. It didn't make much of a difference then, but then obviously because like as you go through with the diet, I kind of just went from one extreme to the other and my energy levels just dropped. I would have to drag my like I don't know, there was this sudden pressure in my knees where I wouldn't even be able to walk up the stairs. I'd have to drag myself everywhere. My hair started falling out. My skin became really dry. And then they were like, oh, if you crave any sort of carbohydrates or like even like a piece of fruit, it automatically means you have candida. And then I scared myself into thinking I have a candida infection. So I was like, maybe I do need to stay away from carbohydrates. And this was all actually from watching like Dr. Berg's videos, just stressing the ketogenic diet. And it just felt like the meat in my body wouldn't digest. And it actually became worse when I did that. So it was terrible.
Okay. And obviously, the point at which you come to me, you'd already had a SIBO test done. And your levels of SIBO, as you sort of alluded to earlier on, were exceptionally high. We obviously had the conversation that, you know, there are 2 avenues and routes for fixing SIBO. You can go down sort of an antibiotic route, and after that antibiotic route, you would have to go through a gut health protocol just to address some of these underlying mechanisms which allowed the SIBO to start in the first place. So that's option 1. And option 2 would be sort of more of a natural route, which you can do with natural antimicrobials. Now, both of those options are as effective as each other, just the antibiotics obviously operate a lot quicker than the natural antimicrobials. So based on your levels of SIBO and your symptoms and things like that, we had a discussion, and you obviously felt that the better option for you at that point would be to sort of go down an antibiotic route. In that situation, I referred you to a doctor who prescribed you rifaximin. You took those for a period of time. So do you want to just explain to everyone listening, obviously, when you were taking the rifaximin, what happened to your symptoms, how quickly you noticed improvements, and then we can obviously move into the gut health protocol after that.
Okay, so as soon as I started taking the rifaximin, this is bearing in mind that I had by that time stopped eating like the ketogenic way because it just wasn't working for me. So I said, whichever food like makes me feel good internally, I'm just going to go with that diet. And that's also what Dr. Roked like advised me to do. And she said it's really important to listen to your own body. So as soon as I started incorporating some fruits and vegetables back in, and I started taking the rifaximin, I'd say within 3 to 4 days, I already started noticing a difference. And it was just like, it felt so light, like I felt so light internally. And by the end of 2 weeks, I just felt like I'd reverted completely back to normal. It just like I'd bloat, but I'd bloat to the extent that every normal person does after they have a meal. But I knew that it wasn't being affected by any bacterial overgrowth, but that was just my body's normal just way of digesting food. And I felt like over the moon because I hadn't felt like that in a long time.
Okay. And in terms of reduction in symptoms, were you sort of 100% in terms of improvement at that time after the antibiotics, or did you still have any lingering issues?
No, it was actually 100% gone.
Okay, perfect. So then after that, we went on to sort of a gut health protocol afterwards, just to kind of recolonize the gut, put some beneficial bacteria, some resistant starch, support digestion for a period of time. And we also used some antimicrobials just as an insurance policy, just to make sure the SIBO infection had fully cleared out. So you were on that sort of for a relatively short period of time. Do you want to just explain to everyone how you found that plan, what things you liked or disliked about it?
So the plan consisted of taking some digestive enzymes, taking a hydrochloric acid capsule sort of before my meals just to stimulate my stomach acid, and it was L-glutamine. And to be honest, I actually had zero problems, even with the probiotics I'm still taking right now. Like there has been zero problems and they've all worked so efficiently. And if anything, I feel like with the probiotics, I can actually feel a difference on the inside. Like I'm able to kind of eat a little bit more than maybe I did, because I felt like for a certain period of time, I actually fell into restrictive eating as well, because like with SIBO, I know I'm not the only one that's probably gone through it, where you just fear eating how you used to, or just eating the same amount as you used to before. Because I'm still on the low FODMAP diet, but obviously I've included a lot more vegetables. But I was even scared to like eat till as much as I was hungry, because I thought the overgrowth would return back, but that hasn't been the case at all. And all the supplements have worked really well with me.
Okay. And in terms of sort of dietary patterns now, what's the sort of the goal for you moving forward? Because obviously you've gone through this sort of fluctuation in diets with kind of ketogenic and then incorporating more sort of fruits and vegetables. Where do you see yourself now in terms of kind of dietary patterns, and where do you think you're going to take that moving forward?
Moving forward, I just envision myself to be incorporating as many high FODMAP fruits and vegetables as possible, but just mainly a vegan diet, because I found that's what works well for me. And for some reason, my body just can't process too much fat. I feel like it's just too hard on me, because I've noticed even with my skin, like my acne used to be so terrible before, like my cheeks used to be covered in pimples, and now I might get the occasional pimple here or there, but it's nothing like before.
Okay. And obviously you've had a decent level of improvement in symptoms now, so gas and bloating, skin, energy levels, significant improvements in all of those different areas. So same question as earlier on, what improvements would you say this is all sort of cumulatively had on your quality of life?
Oh my God, like I can't even begin to explain. I didn't actually think I'd ever end up in this position where I like fully regain my health like 100%, because I just felt like I wouldn't be able to come out of that hole, because I was just like, I don't know what diet to follow. Like that's the thing with going on the internet, because there's just so many different diets, so much conflicting information. It's just I was filling up my head constantly every day. So I just think at the end of the day, it's really important to be in tune with your body. My quality of life, I would say, is 10 out of 10. My energy levels are really high. I'm able to go exercise. I'm able to digest everything I'm eating right now really well. I just feel like a whole new person.
Okay. And like I mentioned earlier on, over the last couple of years, there's been this apocalypse, like you say, of different information on the internet, ketogenic diets, carnivore diets, and everything like that. So what would you say to someone who's sat at home listening to this now with your kind of issues that you had over the last couple of years? What would your sort of general sort of tips and advice be to those type of people who are kind of sat there suffering with gas and bloating, digestive issues, joint problems, skin issues, anything across the board?
Yeah.
And they're listening to kind of this sort of information coming from the internet about ketogenic diets and carnivore diets. What would your sort of take be to those people?
I would definitely say the first stage of line is maybe just to always just go to your doctor first, check your hormones, get blood tests done, just to get an overall picture. Because I know sometimes a lot of the days doctors kind of just like push things to the side and they won't really look into it. But just as a starting point, go to the doctor. And if you feel like that's not doing enough, then definitely go and seek out a nutritionist or dietitian that actually listens to you and won't just kind of like push anything onto you. And on top of that, I feel like you know what you're going through at the end of the day, and no one can tell you what diet works best for you other than yourself, because you know your history, your stress levels, diet, genetic, like everything. I mean, every individual is so unique. And I would say just don't go too much into the internet, because I made that mistake and it became kind of obsessive to the point where I was doing it every single day in search of an answer, and it was just stressing me out more. But please just listen to your own body, and I feel like that's the most important thing, because no one can take control of your own health but you. So don't be scared to like try out different things, because at the end of the day, it's your health. So yeah, just be in tune with your body is what I'd say.
No, absolutely. I think that's very sound advice. Just something you mentioned there. Obviously, a lot of people sort of go to their doctor regarding sort of gas and bloating, and their doctor will put an umbrella term on it as kind of IBS. You were obviously quite lucky in that situation that you approached a doctor who was familiar with SIBO. Again, any kind of sort of suggestions for people if they are approaching a doctor and they're being pushed back with, no, it's IBS, there's nothing we can do about this. So any kind of advice for those type of people? Would you recommend they go and see an alternative doctor, or what's your thoughts on that?
I would definitely say if your doctor isn't doing much, then go to like a functional gut clinic like I did, just to like check out the symptoms and just to see if you do have anything going on internally, because obviously at the end of the day, no one can really dismiss you because you know what you're going through. And I know like you might think you're crazy, but like just never ignore your symptoms. And just to go to like a nutritionist, dietitian. But then I feel like even if you do go to someone, like, because my nutritionist had told me to kind of mainly go on a protein-based diet, like just trial everything for yourself. Like just don't take everything at face value and just go ahead with that. Trial it out, see if it works for you. If not, you kind of have to like jump around a few places before you get your answer, because I know I had gone to like naturopaths before, I'd gone to acupuncturists, like I was just trying to find the answer for myself. So I feel like sometimes you kind of have to like fit a few pieces of the puzzle together before you get the final picture. So yeah, I think it just takes a little bit of more research, but yeah, be in tune with your body and just find good people to go to and good clinics.
No, absolutely. I agree with everything you've just said there. Any final thoughts or comments that you'd like to share with anyone who's listening?
I'd just love to say like a massive thank you to you. Like I feel like you've just like I've been born again, because I haven't felt like this in many years. I mean, since high school, it's just my health has just been on the decline. So I just want to thank you for actually putting out information that's based on research and not just opinion, because there's a lot of difference between opinion and fact. And I appreciate everything that you're doing to try and help others.
No, thank you very much. That's very, very kind indeed. Yeah, look, I just want to say equally that it's been a pleasure working with you over the last few months. I'm sure your health will continue with, you know, on strength to strength as you move forward. And I just want to say, obviously, good luck with the future. Keep me in the loop with how things go.
Thank you.
And yeah, we'll speak again soon. And thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much.